And thank you for letting me yammer on. And I'm going to give this mic to someone else. Okay, who took here? You take it.
So good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You've been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't
It's so great to worship the Lord Most High. It's so great to worship the Lord among ladies that are just after His heart. It's so great just to be one of the few guys here that we're able to just be part of that, and just part of just ministering to you. And it's our prayer just to be His vessels and His ministers. But how awesome is it to be with a group, just like Ann was talking about, just a group from a variety of ages all across the board, serving Him and seeking Him. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you, Lord.
The king of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, is my song. Let the king of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, is my song. Yes, you are good. You're good. Oh, and you are good. You're good. Oh, and you are good. You're good. And whoa, you are good. You're good. Whoa, let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, is my song. Let the king of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, is my song. Let the king of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, is my song. Let the king of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, is my song. 'Cause you are good. You're good. And whoa, and you are good. You're good. And whoa, and you are good. You're good. And whoa, and you are good. You're good.
Are you ready to shout it out at the top of your lungs?
You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down.
Do you believe it?
You're never gonna let me down. 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 You're never gonna let me down.
And you're never gonna let me down. And you're never gonna let me down. Lord, we believe. So good. He's so good. It's good to worship you, Lord.
How many of you feel the presence of the Lord here right now? I just want you to know that He just loves you so much. He wants great and mighty things for your life, doesn't He? And I want you to say that, even when you feel like you're not worthy of it, you just don't believe the lie, because that's not coming from the Lord. Because the Lord will never make you put your past before you and make you feel guilty of that. That is a lie from the devil. And the devil is seeking and just prowling to see who he may devour. But God's promise is that He comes to give you life and give you an abundant life of blessings, of just knowing Him and becoming intimate with Him through His Word. Man, if you're ever discouraged, open the Bible, no matter where it is, and read something. You're going to find, and Dale used to say this a long time ago, you find love stories, you find stories about war, you find stories about anything that you can possibly think of in God's Word. And you read and you see how He brought people out of things. People forgot about Him, but He still had mercy on them. He still loved them, and He wants them back. It's our choice to call the Lord and say, Lord, help me. And I don't care how small you may feel like the problem is. If it's just a matter of finding a piece of paper or finding a set of keys, then, Lord, restore my marriage. Lord, heal my husband. Heal my child. He will hear your prayers, and you go boldly before the throne and you ask Him. And that's all He wants. He just wants to ask. And you can say it out loud, you can say it to yourself, but He wants to hear from you. And He is delighting in your praises. And I told Dale after the weekend of Awaken, I said, during the time that we were able just to go and worship with the worship team that was there, just being in the audience, I said, when I was praying, I said, I was just feeling like I was a little child, and that my Abba Father was just sitting in a chair watching me and just delighting in the praises that I was giving to Him, because I thought that's all He wants to hear. It's just how much we love Him. And you see Him, and that's the way I pictured it, is just I'm sitting at my daddy's feet, and I'm trying to tell Him something, and I'm excited to tell Him something, and He is just taking pleasure in that. And that's all He wants. It's a simple thing. He wants simpleness from us. We don't have to go to learn any prayers. We just speak from our hearts. So you let Him do that today. You let Him listen, and you just picture your Abba Daddy there, sitting there. He's your provider. He's your comforter. He's your healer. He wants to do mighty things in your life. And He's just waiting for you to sit at His feet and say, Daddy, here's what I want. Here's what I want for my children. Here's what I want for my children's children. Here's what I want for my husband. Here's what I want for me. He doesn't care. You know that you just lay it out there. He wants to know what's on your heart. He already knows. That's one thing. He just wants us to feel comfortable talking to him. So you just worship as these girls minister today. The Lord is working through them. We have had wonderful times just rehearsing with these girls. Because you know why? They're singing from the heart. They're singing from the heart. And God doesn't care how it sounds. He just wants your heart. So you listen to these songs and you sing and you just let God minister you to you. You're sitting at your daddy's feet right now and he's just waiting to hear from you.
Unreserved, unrestrained, your love is wild. Your love is wild for me. It isn't shy, it's unashamed. Your love is proud to be seen with me. To be seen with me. You don't give your heart in pieces. And you don't hide yourself to tease us. Uncontrolled, uncontained, your love is a fire and burning bright for me. It's not just a spark, it's not just a flame. Your love is a light, and all the world will see. All the world will see. And you don't give your heart in pieces. And you don't hide yourself to tease us. And you don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. Your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind. It isn't anxious, it's not the restless kind. Your love's not passive, it's never disengaged. It's always present, and it hangs on every word we say. Love keeps its promises, and it keeps its word. It honors the sacred, 'cause His laws are good. Your love's not broken, it's not insecure. Your
Thank you, Lord. Speak to our hearts now, God.
Hello. Sorry. I said, wow, it was amazing. It's amazing. Thank y'all so much. So, as we go forward, this is my sweet, precious friend and amazing Christ follower. At the ripe age of 24, she is wiser than I will probably ever be. She knows how to follow Jesus, and she's really brave about it, y'all. She knows how to tell stories in a way that let other people know that she knows who Jesus is. So I'm really excited to have her here. This is Allison Myers. So y'all just sit back and enjoy this.
Hello. Woohoo. That's super duper loud. I was telling them I don't usually do microphone things, and so I kind of feel like Britney Spears up here, which you actually won't meet a bigger Britney Spears fan than me, so it's fitting. But basically, I just want to talk to you today about kind of my own experience with belonging, and I'm going to talk to you kind of from 1/3 of the way up the mountain. And what I mean by that is that I'm not staring at it from an aerial view. I'm really good at talking about things from the top of the mountain, where I've looked down and I've processed it. I'm like, oh, that makes sense why that happened, and that hurt makes a lot more sense now, and I see why that had to happen. But when you're in the middle of it, when I'm in the middle of it, I'm not so good at talking about it. But so this is, excuse me, this is all kind of ironic that this is something that I've really been working through lately. And just a couple weeks ago, I think a couple of Fridays ago, I think I was on the phone, or I was texting my friend Kimber here, and we're just going through, I'm just kind of complaining / whining / venting, and I'm just like, everything's so weird. And like, I live in Dallas, and but I didn't grow up there. It's very, very different from where I grew up. And so everything, I'm like, relationships and friendships and work is weird, and post-grad life is weird. And I feel like I kind of stick out, and I'm saying this, not even, it's all ironic. So I'm saying all this, then all of a sudden I'm just like, hold on, I gotta go, because I have to like get through this really quickly, because I'm actually on my way to write about belonging. So this is all super ironic. And so I was praying about it, and I was like, Lord, you're gonna have to give me like supernatural wisdom, like immediately, right now, because I'm supposed to tell people how to do this, and I don't know how to do this. And so I felt like he told me, like, just talk from where you are. Like, if you're 1/3 of the way up the mountain, talk from 1/3 of the way up the mountain. So I'm just going to be kind of sharing from a place of presence and transparency with you about that today. And so something up front you should know is that I'm a hardcore introvert. Like, I love solitude. I love quiet. I so recharge by being by myself. But at the same time, I have a super blazing hot, fiery passion for community. I love it, because I think community is it's at the heart of the Father. If you look all the way back in Genesis 2, very beginning, in a perfect, sinless Eden, he said, it is not good for man to be alone. And Adam wasn't alone, he had God. So that kind of tells us that there's something else. Like, there's something beyond that. Like, we need other people, like other blood and guts people to do stuff with. So I kind of want to talk to you today about what it means that you're made to belong, and that you're wired, and what that looks like, and how to belong on purpose, right? And that's kind of a weird thing to say. But I want you to know that even when it feels awkward, that you still belong, and how to kind of navigate through that, and that your membership has already been paid for, so you just have to accept it. So here's a kind of a first little bit about me, and we can actually go to the first slide there, and you'll get to see a really fun picture. That's me. And so that's me waving to you from Texaco, America. and which is not too far from here, Texaco, New Mexico. A fun thing is whenever you're in a setting, like, and you need an icebreaker, there was like, say a fun fact about yourself, and I never have anything except for I'm from a place called Texaco, New Mexico, and it's real. So that's usually my go-to fun fact. But so I grew up in Texaco. It's not too far from here. It's actually very similar. Like, I drove into Panhandle, and I was like, it's kind of like being home. So grew up there. It's the default. You know, it's all I knew, and I pretty much fit the mold for success there. I mean, all my formative years are spent there, so I'm molded to fit a certain mold for success. There's not a whole lot of, you know, is this right? Am I in the right place? Have I made the right choice? Those weren't questions that I was really asking. I mean, I think I could have said, you know, I don't know if I'm in the right place, and my parents would have probably gladly sent me to go pay my own rent and light bill somewhere. But other than that, I mean, my school was so small, we didn't even really deal with like cliques or groups or anything like that. I think the biggest decision that I had to make was like whether or not I was going to do tech lab or FFA in 8th grade. That was really like the biggest decision I had to make. So, I mean, everything was planned out for me. From 8 to 3:30, this is where you're going to be. You're going to be in class. And if you're involved in anything after that, you're going to be there till probably like 5 or 6. And what are you going to do during your spring break and your Thanksgiving break and your Christmas break and your summer break? Oh, all those other things, all those other extra things that are just kind of decided for you. So I think when I started having my own choices, that's when I started to ask the question, do I belong here? Is this right? Did I do this right? So we'll flash forward a little bit to the launch, where I'm out into the world somehow. So I drove a couple hours, what is that, east? I'm more of a left and right kind of girl. I guess that's east. To the thriving metropolis of Canyon, Texas, where I decided to be a buff. Go Buffs. And yes. I actually saw someone driving down the interstate the other day with a WT sticker, and I almost wrecked trying to get next to them to like throw my Buff sign out the window, and it's raining, but I'm like, go Buffs! And I don't even know if they saw me, but it was so worth it. I think that is how you handle that when that happens. But West Texas, I love it. I love being here. I think there will always be like a soft spot in my heart for West Texas because this was where I learned how to belong. You know, I got to college, and freshman year, lo and behold, was hard. You know, it felt kind of uncomfortable, and this mold that I grew up in, I found out it wasn't necessarily one size fits all. I was like, hold on, this is weird. But I got there, and it was uncomfortable in a way that's like you put on a new pair of shoes, and you're like, this is my size, but somehow I still have blisters. You know, it's kind of one of those things. So, like, I got there, and I was a mass comm major, broadcasting, and for no other reason other than, like, I ran the cameras at church one time, and I liked it. And then, like, at school, they let me be the announcer person. Like, I did the school announcements, and, like, if they needed someone for the pep rally or to, like, announce the other basketball team's name, they were like, where's Allison? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. So I was like, I guess broadcasting? So, and also I had enough math credits for that one. So I decided that was probably meant to be. But I got there, and it seemed like everybody kind of knew stuff. Like, I was kind of behind the curve. They knew lingo. They knew about software. They knew about hardware. It seemed like they knew about design, and they read all these books, and I was just like, oh, snap. Maybe I messed up. Like, maybe this is actually wrong. So that was kind of the first time I started asking myself, like, do I belong here? But I saw a final product, so to speak, like a graduate, and they were so cool. Like, these mass comm majors were just so, and they're that effortlessly cool, where you're just like, how are you like that? How do you wear that and it doesn't look bad? You know, like, I want to be like that, and I so wasn't like that, but I wanted to be. So I stuck it out, which is kind of, yikes, like blisters, ouch. But I stuck it out. I learned how to adapt and how to evolve. And let's go to the next slide there, because I think one of the biggest lies that we're fed is that everything should work around us, and that if you go somewhere and it doesn't fit immediately like a puzzle piece, oh, it's wrong. I don't belong here. I made the wrong choice. And that's not true at all, because life is about adaptation. Life is about evolution. And I'm not saying you have to reinvent yourself and compromise everything that you are, but I am saying that things that are growing change, right? Things that are growing change. So don't be afraid to stick something out, and don't be afraid to let yourself be molded into what God is making. Like, you start as a large block of clay. Have you ever taken a pottery class? Anybody? I took one once. I got a D in it. So maybe this isn't, I don't know why I said that. But I did. Yeah, bless me. Humility. Yeah, so it was funny. And I was like, kind of confused. I had this large block of clay, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know? And I feel like that's just kind of us. It's a picture of us. We start out like this, and for it to become useful, for it to become even nice looking, it has to change. Stuff has to be cut off. Stuff has to be molded. You have to put it through fire, right? So don't be afraid. Don't buy into the lie that says that everything should mold around you. That's not true. You can let yourself be broken in. So what I do now, I live in Dallas, and I work in development, which is not broadcasting, but that's okay. And I love it, actually. But part of that is I go to a lot of events, like all the events, and it's fun, but as an introvert who makes a living extroverting, like, you have to, like, charge up. Like, I have to psych myself up to do things, and so I was going to my first big event, and I am just, like, shaking in my boots a little bit, to be quite honest. And it's this fancy party. Like, a parent at our school that I work at, did I say that? I work in development at a private school. So there's a parent at our school, and she has a kid at our school, but she has a kid at another school. So she calls me. For some reason, she likes me I'm like, there's no reason for you to like me. But she, I'm like, I don't trust this, sounds fake, but okay. And so she calls me, and she's like, hey, so we're having this fundraising party event thing at my house, and I want you to come because so-and-so's going to be there, so-and-so's going to be there, and I want to introduce you to them. Will you come? I'm like, okay. And she's like, bring your husband. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I'll bring somebody. And so it's fine. And so I get there, and it's kind of hitting me, like, it's at her house, which is like this mansion, castle on a hill type thing. And so she has valet, like, at her house. And so we valet the car, and we're walking up the sidewalk, and it hits me, and I'm like, I haven't worried enough about this. Like, I haven't psyched myself up enough for this. And so we're walking up there, and we're walking up the sidewalk, and I can hear literally an opera singer who's, like, singing on the patio, and I can see all these lights and all these fancy cars, and we're walking up there, and I kind of half-jokingly say, like, oh, I already feel out of place. And, I mean, I could write a dissertation for you on humor as a coping mechanism, but we're walking up there, and so I'm kind of half-joking. It's halfway to myself, but we're walking up there, and my friend who's with me, he stops me, and he's not joking, and he stops, and he's like, you belong here just as much as any of these other people, and you better act like it. And I said, okay, like, I was joking. And he's like, no, you weren't. And I was like, you're right. And so we walk up there, and I did. Like, I let myself be broken in that situation. It felt awkward. It really did. I felt awkward. But I walked in, and I kept telling myself, I belong here. Not in and we use that word belong in different contexts. Like, I don't belong here as in these people are my home or these people are my people, but I'm worthy to be here. Like, I'm worthy to be in this context with these other people. So that has really made all the difference. I want to tell you, you belong here. Wherever here is for you, if there's a place that just stresses you, it gives you anxiety to go there, if it's church, if it's your job, if it's, your small group, or it's something in you, it's just like, it kind of rubs you the wrong way, and you're just like, I feel a little bit less than. I just want to tell you right now, you belong wherever your feet are. You belong there. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the fact that you don't have to prove your belonging to anyone. I just told you don't have to earn it. You also don't have to prove it. Let's go to the next slide. And I want to tell you that your belonging is not on Instagram. And I was like, maybe this is only going to resonate with the younger people, but I actually think a lot of us now are on social media. It's a really big thing. So I want to tell you that right now. But as a senior in high school, I remember watching, maybe junior, senior, I always had friends that were a little bit older than me, so I would watch them graduate, and I didn't graduate high school that long ago, like 6-7 years ago, but in the grand scheme of things, like in the, talking about the rapid growth of social media, like that was kind of a long time ago. Facebook was primarily the main thing that people were using to share their lives, and that's not super the case anymore, but that's what it was for us. So I would watch, and my new friends or my old friends, they graduated and they went to college, and I would watch as their life kind of unfolded on social media, and they were tagged in a million pictures, and like life was so fun and everything was so seamless. And I'm like, this is good for them. Like, man, they're following the same exact path that we had in high school, you know? It was like, and I told you about, there weren't really like cliques or groups. It was like two main groups. Like, you have the kids that did everything and the kids that did nothing. And the kids that did everything, like, it was just kind of a culture thing. You had to succeed and you had to win at that. So I'm like, oh, good, they're still doing it. Like, they're still succeeding. They have a million friends, and I think they met their husband their first day of college, and like, they're killing it. Life is a party. Life is so good. College is easy. And that was, I got to watch that happen. And you can imagine my surprise when I got to college, and I was like, whoa, this is not like that. This is not that easy. It didn't happen, my first week of college like it did for them. And so here I am thinking, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe, like, I thought we all had the same formula, but maybe mine somehow got edited, something got taken out. Like, maybe I'm just missing something. Because I'm watching all these people, and then they come home, and like, they're wearing their college t-shirt, and they have their little student ID around their neck, like a classic freshman. And I see them, and I'm just like, oh yes, like, you're doing good, but it's not working for me. Like, what's going on here? So I called one of my best friends, who was a year older than me, and she went to another, like, a larger university. And so I called her, and I was like, hey, so I remember when you were a freshman and you were killing the game. Like, it was awesome. You had all these friends. And I thought we were operating off the same formula, but maybe we're not. So do you think you can kind of speak to that? And she's like, oh yeah, freshman year was one of the loneliest times of my life. What? I was like, hold on, were we looking at the same Facebook page? And she's like, oh yeah, it was super hard. Like, it was awful. I didn't have friends. I didn't really like the people that I was hanging out with. We're all just kind of grasping. Like, we're all grasping. It's like, is this my best friend? I don't know. I hope so. Let's paint a picture together. Because I have to report back to the troops that everything's going okay. Like, everything's going well. I have to update my Facebook so the moms back home know that I am still social and I'm still successful and everything is going well. And so me, being who I am, decided to kind of conduct some, like, really unscientific research. And I started kind of going through all of the ones that, like, I watched these people, their beautiful lives unfold on Facebook. So I kind of started going through and doing some informal research. And it wasn't like, hey, I'm doing a survey, but it was like, hey, so, like, just wondering, did you ever have trouble your freshman year of college? Like, did you ever struggle with, like, friends or, like, finding your crew, finding your fit? And they all said yes. They all were like, yes, it was hard. It was horrible. And I'm like, but it didn't look like it. So it's kind of like we're all in jail together, but we're in separate cells, and we don't even know we're in the same jail. Like, it's awful, right? And I'm like, why don't we just talk? Like, why don't we all just be friends? Like, it seems like we're having trouble with this, So, and then I began to watch as younger girls, and boys too, but really, I really saw this with girls. I began to kind of watch the ones who are under me grow up, and I wanted to see if I would see the same cycle, and I did. Everybody, it's like, here comes the 1,000 pictures from your first week of buff branding or whatever, and I'm like, buff branding wasn't fun. Like, can we just say that? And like I love WT, but holy cow, like, that wasn't fun for me, and I'm not even gonna hold back. They dropped me off in a canyon with no phone service. I contemplated walking back, but like, my GPS wouldn't load, and I told you I was a left and right kind of girl, so I would have never made it out alive. Like, I'm like, this is not fun. Like, how are y'all having so much fun? And so I see that happen, and even one girl recently who's a few years younger than me, I ended up running into her whenever I was back in town, and she's the same way, like 1,000 likes on every picture, and they're all like very aesthetically pleasing. They're very cool, and you're like, girl gang, girl power. Like, yes, I want to be in your friend group. And so we're watching her. I'm watching her. Multiple personalities or something. So I'm looking through and I'm seeing, and I'm like, oh, everything is like, I found my new best friend, and my big is my soulmate, and I found my boyfriend, and everything is so good, and I love college, and it's great. And so I'm sitting here watching, and I'm like, I hope so. Like, I really do. I hope this is real. But you know when you're like, you just know in your spirit, you're like, it ain't real. And I run into her, and I'm like, hey, like, let's go have dinner, let's go catch up. So we're sitting there, and we're having dinner, and I'm like, so how's everything? Like, how's school? It looks like you're, doing really well. It looks like everything's going great. And she's like, yeah, I'm looking at other schools. She's like, I said, really? Like, what? And she's like, yeah, I don't have a lot of friends. Like, I don't really have a lot of friends. The girls are kind of mean. I don't really like them that much. I just mostly hang out with my boyfriend, and I don't know. I don't know. It's not what I thought it would be. From my point of view, from everyone's point of view, she's living the freaking dream. I don't know if I can say freaking in here, but I just did. Woo, all right, let's recalibrate. So, no one's immune to this. Like, I'm not saying this because it sounds like I totally police everybody's social media, and I'm like, fake news. None of this is true. That's not true. I recognize it in other people because I recognize it in myself. Like, I totally did that, right? Like, freshman-ish year, I don't really remember which year it was, but, college, and I had just done something fun that was, like, legitimately fun. We went somewhere with a group of friends of mine, and they actually did end up being some of my really best friends, but at the time, whatever. It was like, I just have to report back to the troops. And so made a post, or I was tagged in a post or something, and I remember one of the moms from my hometown posted on there, and she's like, it looks like you're doing so great. Like, I love that you're making friends, and it seems like you're fitting in super well. And I just remember thinking, thank God it's working. Like, thank God they believe this. This is work. So far, so good. And social media is not bad. Like, I'm a millennial. I love social media. I really do. But anything can be abused. Anything can be misused. Anything can be a tool for bad, So I want to tell you that today is you don't have to prove it. From the outside, it might look like the girl who has 1,000 followers on Instagram and gets 1 billion likes on everything. It looks like she belongs, and it looks like she is accepted. But I'll tell you right now that is no substitute. That is no substitute for true belonging. Approval is no substitute for true belonging. And I told you this girl that I called was one of my best friends. I think the most unfortunate thing was that she didn't even tell me. Like, I think that's a more unfortunate situation because I don't think she told anybody. So not only are we feigning this sense of belonging in a new setting, but we didn't even have an old setting where we felt safe enough to share that. So I'll tell you what belonging is not. And it is not joining a group. It's not a slew of new Facebook friends. It's not 500 likes on each of your Instagram posts. It requires presence from you. It requires authenticity from you. It requires vulnerability, and that's hard, straight up. Like, that's super hard. I felt totally gypped when I realized that simply joining a church or a small group or a club, it didn't really give me a sense of true belonging. It was like college all over again. I moved to Dallas, and I joined this group, and I'm super an advocate of, just pick one. Don't date a million groups. Don't date a million churches. Just pick one, But I get there, and I'm like, I feel like I'm kind of sticking it out, but it's just not happening for me. So I was praying about it, and I was just like, am I wrong? And God said, it's college all over again. You're going to have to endure a few blisters. And, I just had to stick it out. I had to actually fight for connection, which is a thing that, again, I don't think we're told we're going to have to do. But I actually started scouting out people that I liked or that I would think I would like. And so I just went up to them and was like, would you be my friend? And they have to, it's not like a text that they can ignore and be like, I didn't get your text. I straight up was like, hey, will you be my friend, yes or no? And surprisingly, they all said yes. Despite how freaking weird that was. But they did. They all became my friends, and some of them really have turned into some of my dearest friends, and they show me again and again how much I really do belong. And it isn't automatic, and it takes work. Even friendship takes work. I feel like we don't talk about that. We talk about your relationships and your marriage is going to take work. Your friendships take work too, man. They really do. A true sense of belonging means that these people that I have they're the ones that I call when I am having a good day. When I've had the best day of my life, I call them, but I also call them when the sky is falling. Like when everything is bad, they have seen me truly scared and truly small and fragile, and they call me strong anyway. And I think that that's what that means, to really find your belonging somewhere. You know, they're a home, and they remind me that even with my imperfections and my shame and all of my failures, I still belong there. And bearing those things is really scary, but scary things build connection. Like, it gives the other person the freedom to say, thank God, me too. Like, I can't tell you how many times that's happened for me. Someone shares something, someone shares a scary thing or a hard thing, and I'm like, oh, thank God. I thought you were perfect. Like, I feel so much better now that you're not, because we actually both suck. Thank goodness. Like, we should do this thing together, you know? But that sense of belonging, it's not something to be proven on your Instagram, and it's not something to be proven on social media or to anybody, really. But it is good and wise to seek it out and to fight for it in your real life. You know, you won't find it everywhere, but you will find it somewhere if you keep digging. You have to keep digging, and you have to keep searching, because community is a gift. It really is. I do encourage you to press into that and just keep digging, because the best part is nothing can take away your membership. Nothing can take away your membership, even if it feels icky and it feels like, ugh, this is not natural. This doesn't really feel right. Like, I just weirded them out because I asked them if they would be my friend. Like, that, none of that took away my membership. And your vulnerability is something to not be scared of, and that's really hard for me to say because I'm super scared of vulnerability. So I don't like it. You know, and be wise about it, because your story's not for everybody, to be sure, but it is for somebody. So I encourage you to keep doing it, keep digging, keep looking for that. So don't be afraid of that. And the next point I want to share with you is that your feelings should not at any point hold you hostage. I think sometimes it's really, our feelings can debilitate us. They can paralyze us. We can go to the next slide. But so the other day, it's funny, I'm in the middle, like I knew that I was writing this whole thing, and like all of these things are happening, and I feel like that's the Lord just like being like, poke, 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 you know, this is all for you, and you're learning this, so I'm sharing it as I'm learning it. But so I work at a school, and I try to get people to give us money, and it's hard. But I had a meeting with this guy from another school. He's a development guy there. And it's like a huge school in North Dallas, and I get there, and he's like, oh yeah, we're in the middle of a $20 million campaign. I'm like, same, you know, and so I feel like a scrub, but he sits me down, and he's like, what do you need? You know, do you need advice? Do you need materials? Do you need connections? And I'm like, yes, all of the above. So he's really, really precious, and introduces me to one of his colleagues, who is also an angel sent to earth for me. And she emails me. We have a meeting for a couple hours, and we just really hit it off. And I'm like, why are they so nice to me? I can't do anything for them. But a couple days later, she emails me and follows up, and she's like, hey, so there's this group that I'm a part of, and it's all of us from different, you know, private schools in the area, and we just get together and we share ideas, and like, do you want to be a part of it? And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, she says, I already put your name on the list. Like, just if you want to, just email this person from this school, and just show up, and we'll be there. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, I guess so. It's a yes from me. So I print out this list, and I'm reading this list, and y'all, this was like 2 weeks ago. So I'm reading this list, and I see, you know, this school and this school and this school. And if you're not in the Dallas private school world, you won't know or care, and I totally get that. But like, it's a big deal. Like, it's kind of cutthroat, it's kind of competitive, it's kind of elitist at times. And so I'm reading all these schools, and they're like rich and awesome, and they're the schools that, like, when you graduate, they're like, oh, you graduated from Hockaday, congratulations, here's your acceptance to Yale. You know, it's like those schools. And so I see the list on there, and then I see my school, and I see my name on there, and I straight up said, ooh, I don't belong on this list. I straight up said that out loud, like, as I had just been like working on writing this thing. I was like, I don't belong on this list. And it was awkward, and but whatever. I was like, I'm still gonna go, it's gonna be fine. And so I get there, and I just feel really like unworthy, and I feel really weird, and I feel really awkward. But you know what didn't happen is my name never came off the list. Like, just because I felt like I shouldn't have been on there That didn't change one single thing. So I want to tell you that today. I don't care how you feel. God doesn't care how he cares. He's nicer than me. But it has no bearing on whether or not you get to keep your membership. Like, you get to walk in and they're still going to have your name tag. Even though you're like, I don't really, I don't know about this. Your name tag, ma'am. You know, like, you still get to be on the list. And I walked in that room, and the sweet gal, Megan, who had introduced me to the group, I walk in and she's like, hey, I'm so glad you're here. I saved you a seat next to me. Y'all, if you're in a place where you feel okay and you feel secure and you feel like you belong, look around, because somebody doesn't feel that way, and you can freaking save them a seat. Like, I felt like it literally saved my life. That's so dramatic, but I was like, thank God, you know. And she sat with me, and she persisted, and she introduced me to people, and I'm like, extrovert, engage. You know, I'm like, how do I, all right, again, I didn't worry about this enough. But save somebody a seat. You know, if you're in a good place, if you're in a place where you're like, yes, I'm totally walking in my belonging, I'll take my name tag now, save someone a seat. I was reading this story a few days ago, and it was about adoption, because I love to just like make myself cry in Starbucks. And so I'm sitting there next to this girl who's like doing her math homework, and I'm like openly weeping, reading this story. But it's about this dad. He wrote this story. And so he's telling us about this daughter that he adopted, and she had already been previously adopted, but it didn't go well, and for whatever reason they dissolved the adoption. And he was telling us about, you know, her previous family and how they just didn't treat her as an equal. You know, she was adopted, but not really. So like the whole family went to Disneyland and left her at home. And he learned about this very shortly after that. The adoption was dissolved, and he had learned about that. And whenever he had adopted her, and so it was kind of like his life mission. He's like, I got to get this girl to Disneyland. And so they planned a family trip to Disneyland, and about a month before the trip, this baby child, this adopted child, started just really acting out, like badly, started just behaving badly, was just, you know, taking stuff when she should have just asked for it, talking back, you know, these kind of things, like stuff that just wasn't really in her character, but it, you know, she was just super acting out. And so the dad one day, he sits her down and he's like, what are you doing? You know, like, what's going on here? And she's like, let me guess, you're not going to take me to Disneyland. And so he said, you know, everything in me wanted to be like, well, if you don't act right, yeah, we're not. But he said, you know, thank God I didn't say that. He said, you know, are you a part of this family? She said, yes. And he said, is this something we're doing as a family? And she said, yes. And he said, then you're going. You know, we're going to Disneyland. That didn't stop her, though. She kept acting. This little devilish behavior kept going. And, like, the closer they would get to the trip, like, the mutinies just multiplied. But he said, whatever. You know, like, she knew that in the past, she was the one left outside of the Magic Kingdom gates. And so she was just not even going to get her hopes up. She was just going to say, I'm going to separate myself as far as I can from this so I know. It's like, I don't have to be disappointed again. Lo and behold, they get to Disneyland. And she even had a bad first day. She even acted out at Disneyland. With the dad, they take her to the hotel that night, and he sits her down, and they're praying, and he's just kind of holding her there. They're getting ready for bed, and he said, so how was your first day at Disneyland? And he said a new child kind of appeared, and she said, Daddy, I finally got to go to Disneyland, and it wasn't because I was good, it's because I'm yours. Well, if that isn't the story of outrageous adoption and grace and belonging that we all need to feel, right? I have a verse on my phone because I'm a millennial. Hang on. So let's go to the next verse there. So we're in 1 Corinthians 12, 26. So we're going to read a lot of them. It says, just as a body, though one has many parts, but all its many parts from one body, so it is with Christ. For we are all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jew or Gentile, slave or free, we were all given one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not, for that reason, stop being a part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not the eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not, for that reason, stop being a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. The eye can't say to the hand, I don't need you. And the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker or indispensable are the parts that the parts that we think are less honorable, we treat with special honor. And the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty, while our presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has put the body together, giving great honor to the parts that lacked it. So there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. You're his. It's not because you were good. But he set out this race for you to run, and your race doesn't look like your race, and your race doesn't look like your race. Whatever part of the body you are, be a good one. And I totally ripped that off from Abe Lincoln. But he didn't say it exactly like that. But what's not up for debate here is whether or not you're in the race. What's not up for debate is whether or not you are part of the body. That's not the question. The question is, what is your race to run? What is your role within the body? Whether you're the hands or the head or the elbow or the fingernail, the question is, how do I be faithful in this? What does this mean for me? What does faithfulness look like here? What does faithfulness look like in this season, in this job, in this school, in this church? What does faithfulness look like here? Brené Brown said in her new book, Braving the Wilderness, stop walking through the world looking for confirmation that you don't belong. You will always find it because you've made that your mission. What if we made our mission simply to run our own race? What if our mission was just to be faithful wherever our feet are? Whatever your call is, whatever your task is necessary, and it's vital, and it matters, and it is absolutely imperative for the sake of the body that you run your race. I was talking to an advisor in the seminary that I'm at there in Dallas, and her name is Shannon, and one of my friends set this up, and she's like, I was kind of lacking some direction, clarity in my life, and she was like, you need to talk to Shannon. Shannon is known as the excavator. So that's intense. Like, I'm totally serious. They call her the excavator because she just, like, brings things out of people and, like, passions and gifts and talents and, and all that. And so I was like, yeah, I'd love to sit down with Shannon. And so we sit down, and she practically yells at me for, like, an hour. And it was kind of like one of those, like, coach pep talk yells. And I was like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, I thought you were going to tell me something that I'm really good at, but you just, like, made me feel bad about myself. But we're sitting there, and she's like, you're kind of bordering on disobedience. She's like, she's telling me these things, and she's like, you need to use your voice. And I was like, first of all, don't tell me what to do. And secondly, I don't have one, And she's like, she said, it matters. It matters what you have to say. And just previously, she had sat there, and she just looked at me. She's one of those that, like, kind of stares to your soul. And I'm, like, trying to look away. And she's like, why are you hiding? I was like, like right now or just, like, in general? And she doesn't break eye contact. She's like, you take that however you want it. I was like, okay, message received. But she's sitting there, and she's like, you're bordering on disobedience by not doing what the Lord called you to do, and he called you to use your voice. She's like, you're jeopardizing the body when you don't use your voice. And I said, okay. And she looked at me, and with just this burning intensity that I'll never forget, and she looked me in the eye, and she said, your voice matters. And until she said that, I didn't know I didn't believe that. So a lot of times I think we believe things, or we don't believe things about ourselves, and we don't even know it, right? Like, we know a lot of things that we don't believe, or we believe a lot of things that we don't know. And if you need that today, I want you to know that you belong here. wherever here is. If it's in this church, I want you to know you belong here. If it's in your small group, if it's in your job, if you're new to town and you're not feeling it, it's okay. You belong where your feet are. I accepted my new position at work, and the person whose place I took, we couldn't be more different. We really couldn't. Like, I look up to her. She's amazing. She's like this Michelle Obama-esque type person who just like has a presence and is like powerful and graceful and stunning. And I am just like a derpy little mess, you know? And so I accept this new position, and I am just immediately intimidated. And I'm like, I can't fill the shoes of this person who came before me because I am not anything like her. And I'm having a straight up like fist fight with Jesus over this almost. And I'm just like, I'm not good like her. And you know when he just does the thing where he's like, be good like you. Yeah, exactly. You know, like you don't have to be good like her. You can just be good like you. Whatever. So you can help other people believe that they belong here. If you're in a place and you're like, you're not really talking to me because I'm good. Like, I know my feet are here, I belong here, I feel good here. Help somebody else, save somebody else's seat, and help them be good like them. Now, obviously, you don't belong everywhere, right? You can't be everywhere at once, and you need prayer, and you need discernment, and you need wise counsel, and I don't have time to go into all the caveats of this. But the point is, don't overcomplicate the will of God, right? Like, don't make it harder than it needs to be. Are you loving the Lord? Are you seeking the Lord and loving him with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength? If so, you're not going to miss it. Like, he's not going to let you miss it. He's not mean. And I think somebody needs to hear that. He's not mean. And he's not set your life up to be this unsolvable riddle. Right? Like, you don't hide yourself to tease us. Right? Like, he's not like that. That's not in his character. He gets no pleasure from your despair or your confusion or your loneliness or your questioning of whether or not you're in the right place. He doesn't like that, right? Like, that's just not who he is. He's not set you up to fail. And once again, I'll say it, you belong where your feet are. And I want you to know this today is that you're beloved and that you have what it takes. Like, I think it's really important to remember that. Like, I have to tell myself that all the time. My pastor back in Dallas tells me this all the time. He's like, you have what it takes to be here. You have what it takes to be in this job, in this season, in this marriage, in this family, in this international, multi-generational, multi-ethnic, technicolor body of Christ. Your membership doesn't have to be earned. It doesn't have to be proven. You're already in. So just rest in that. And it's not because you're good by any means, but it's because you're his. These magic kingdom gates, they're open. They're open for you. You just have to walk inside. So just receive it. And would you guys just pray with me? Jesus, just help us to be good like us. Help us to submit to what we know is true about ourselves. When the lies fly in from every direction from the enemy, God, let us fight with our knowledge that we belong, no matter what, that our name can never be erased from the list. It's written in permanent marker. It's already on there, Jesus. Help us to not let us be held hostage by our feelings. Help us to be faithful in whatever our role is, whatever our race is, even if it doesn't look like somebody else's. Let us rest in that you've given it to us. Let us rest in knowing that we have what it takes. Father, let us go forth and praise because we belong and because no one can take that from us, Jesus. Inhabit our praises as we go forth, Lord. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Hello. Thank you. That was amazing. I love you. Whew. It's been a good day. And you know, it's been a really good day because y'all are here. So I'm going to put another plug in. Follow us on Facebook. And I think Kendra Martin, the social media guru of the world, is going to be doing some other stuff too. So y'all stay tuned. I'm hoping she's not paying attention. Just kidding. Sorry. Ever the teacher. No, I'm hoping that we can connect more with Allison, and she'll be able to speak more into some of the things that we're going to be talking about online. So I encourage you guys to follow and be a part of the conversation, because every one of your voices is very important. I've had 2 or 3 women just during the course of the day come and tell me something extraordinarily powerful. I mean, super like crazy. I could get them up here and it would blow your doors off. But I'm going to wait, and we're going to put it on Facebook, because there's a timing thing with that. And so as these things come, you know, Holy Spirit lives in cyberspace. He knew what it was before we did, right? And so as these things come in front of us, I'm really excited about the conversations that we're going to be able to have, because we are community, right? Not because of me, even though she's cool, not because of Kendra, right? Just because this is not ours. This is his. We are his, just like she said. So thank you so much again for being here. Thank y'all for being here. Get on Facebook. Keep up with us. If you don't have a church home, we at the River would really love to have you come and be with us. We have our service on Sunday is at 10:45, and we'd love to have you. We love you guys already, and thanks for being here, and y'all have the very best Saturday night, and we'll see you in the morning.
I once was lost, but now I'm alive.